time for your presentation. The floor is yours.
Thank you. So yeah, first of all, once again, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon to some of you. I think this is a very important topic, talking about project management in construction, especially now when we predict potentially to double or to triple the investment in infrastructure projects. Actually, McKinsey reports 4 years ago, they were already predicting a double of investment in infrastructure up to 2030. But after this pandemic, the numbers are even higher. So I think it's really important to be prepared, especially or to be prepared and to be aware of the importance of project management processes, procedures at this stage, as of course we are all taxpayers, and usually, of course, public infrastructure projects are executed with our money. So I think we all have a responsibility to question, to be aware, and to realize that it's important to go another level and to have the right setup in order to manage the construction projects with higher performance. So moving on, a quick introduction. I'm a civil engineer with 12 years experience. I'm also a certified planning and scheduling professional by AACE International, and I've been working for the top 10 construction companies worldwide. In terms of major projects, I've been actually involved in Rail Baltica here in the Baltics. I've been in Crossrail in London, London City Airport as well, the Fehmarn Belt between Denmark and Germany, and also in the Caribbean. So in total, I would say more than 8 countries, or many more than 8 countries where I've been actually lived and worked for quite some time. So the current scenario in construction, I would say we have, as we, not sure if we are all aware of it, but we have 3D models, of course, using software. We have surveying and visual, monitoring tools, planning and scheduling software, artificial intelligence, which is actually now starting to be talked about within the construction. We have digital site diaries, a lot of paperwork. We have ERP systems, CD systems, and as well, of course, reporting and digital dashboards. So why, with all this mix of technology, tools, processes, procedures, why the digital project management still fails in construction? Why are we not able to integrate all of these tools, all of these softwares, and treat the data, analyze the data, and take right decisions? So based on my experience, all over the place, reading huge amount of contracts, I will say usually the requirements are not clear. So when you read a particular condition of a contract, I'm sure that is also some of you from other industries, you will relate to that. When you read the particular conditions, there is not enough detail specifically about the project controls, which is another layer of project management. So the contracts still do not clearly require any certified professionals involved in the project management, specifically on the project controls field. And usually there is also not enough requirements or details regarding to the digital solutions that you need to adopt. So in conclusion, I will say there is no clear project control plan in the construction contracts. So this might be a little bit different from country to country, from region to region. Perhaps in the UK, where you use a different form of contract, you might have a specific requirements. But if you are in European Union, if you are reviewing a contract of a road construction, it will be almost 100% sure that your project control plan is not attached to the contract, and therefore you will have problems. So the construction companies will not be prepared to adopt any a new way of executing, will not be budgeting accordingly and properly to have the exact resources, to have the exact and required tools, and therefore the adoption will be always postponed to the next project. And once again, I think we need to be aware of that, as we are the taxpayers and we are somehow paying for the public infrastructure. So a quick example, this particular one, I'm sure that some of you will recognize, Canary Wharf in London, and this was the London City Airport redevelopment project, where basically we were executing the expansion of the taxiway and the stands. At that time, I was, of course, working for a construction company. This is already the end result. And the main issues were, of course, we have a silo, which basically the designing company or the designer was working at. Then we have a second silo with the so-called 4D planner, another professional specialized in 4D visualization, and we have the project planner. So each one of these three silos, if we have processes, procedures, and workflows written at the contract, most likely we were able to streamline the information. However, in this case, as it was not required in the contract, the information was not flowing between these three silos. And we are talking very relevant information, such as design and such as time, which is very relevant, of course, for a construction project. So the main issues were no alignment on coding or activity IDs in between the three silos. The design was, of course, coming from the silo number one, was always late, because you still need to send it via email, receiving it, analyzing it, importing it. So it was always too late. So the information were not live, because you were getting the information very late, and therefore no coordination and no ability to manage the data on time. So once again, the main cause were, in my opinion, the workflow requirements not clearly requested at the tender and contract stage, and therefore the contractor did not estimate any budget for the correct digital structure and approach. So I think this is very relevant, and it is up to us, which are sometimes involved in the contract writing process. It's up to us to define these processes and these systems. Again, we should not wait for a lawyer to come up, or just we should not allow the lawyers to be alone developing the contracts. We really need to have this extra layer and the clear requirements, again, to define processes and systems upfront, to allow the contractor to price it properly. So, of course, in order to do that, it is important to involve specialists, project control specialists in this particular case, and we need to develop these requirements and attach it to the contract. Of course, I think it's important to mention that Usually the projects are delayed. We have several management consulting companies with different numbers, 30%, 50%, 80% of the construction projects are delayed. And I mean, for me, being in the construction industry, it's fine to be delayed, but you need to know the reason. You need to assess the reason, and you need, again, the lessons learned for the next project. And in order to do that, you need to collect data, and therefore you need to have processes and systems. And the good thing is we don't need to reinvent any processes, workflow. This is not rocket science. If you use, for example, AACE International as recommended practices, you will find all the processes that you need to plan, to execute, to check or to monitor the project and to act. I think it's important to know that we do not need to reinvent anything. All the processes, workflows, they are already prepared and suggested by different organizations, in this case, AACE. Systems integrations, the same. We in construction, we know that in order for us to use the data and to use the historical data to take decisions, to learn, we need to start with integrated coding and data structure. And once again, I'm not an IT professional, I'm a civil engineer, but I have been there. I've been involved, especially on the system adoption, systems integration, and it's quite interesting that whenever we try to integrate systems, we all realize that we need to go a step back, and we need to, again, start from the coding, make sure that all the activities are matching, make sure that all the data has a proper structure, in this case, WBS, OBS, CBS, all of them, they need to be integrated in order to, again, to take advantage of your systems. Otherwise, we will be managing projects as we did probably 10 years ago in Excel spreadsheets, or even right now. There are a lot of institutions still managing projects in Excel spreadsheets, which, of course, it's not ideal. So what is this project control plan that I have been talking about? Is it a Gantt chart? Is it a process flow chart? Is it a narrative? Of course, by definition, it is a narrative which has the qualitative representation of the project control process. So by qualitative, I mean processes, procedures, systems, tools, because we are defining the quantitative aspects up front. We know whenever we need to build a road, we know the quantities, we know the time frame, we know the cost, but how are we going to execute it? What are the processes? How can I track variances, change? Actually, the previous speaker was mentioning the change management as a very important topic nowadays, and it is in the construction. But I will say it's not yet adopted, and this is the qualitative part where we need to focus. So that's why the project control plan is very important to be written by professionals and to be in the contract up front. AACE, of course, it says or recommends that it's the most important communication tool for the project control process. But again, it's the qualitative part, and that's why it's very important and it cannot be ignored. So in summary, project control plan is execution strategy. Once again, it's where you are going to link your activities, your data with your systems, and it's where you will use it as an advantage to take decisions and to analyze the data for the next project, for the current project. So it will be used throughout the project life cycle, and it's very important to adopt it as soon as possible. So some components of the PCP, you have the project scope, the cost estimation, cost control, change management, as I mentioned, risk, progress monitoring. So some of the topics that you need to cover on the PCP, I think we are probably all aware of these topics across the industries, and of course on the project management topic, but we need to go a deeper level and write the right requirements with the vision of data and digital solutions in order to take advantage of the digital solutions available in the market. So whenever you develop it, you need to understand your needs. You need to understand what your organization needs to analyze. Is it cost? Is it time? Is it quality? Is it contractual management? So you need to make these questions up front. You need to know where to focus. But again, if it's written in the contract, and if you are a public owner, you should have it in the contract, so your needs will be fulfilled by the construction company or by the engineering company if it is written in the contract. Of course, I always suggest to have advisory of qualified professionals because, as I mentioned, the processes, the workflows are written, but still, being new, being first time exposed to it, it might take some time to understand it, to digest it. So whenever you seek advisory, it will be much faster adoption, and usually professionals from with AACE, PMI, or APM background will be able to help you. So how can you adopt it, and when can you adopt it? Again, as soon as possible, ideally since the beginning of the project, even at tender stage, contract stage, you should have it. It should be clear to everyone. Ideally, attach it to the particular conditions. Sometimes you can also have it on the PEP, the project execution plan, as another component. And of course, don't forget that by adopting it as early as possible, you will be able to fully integrate your processes and use your time wise to take smarter decisions. So I think this is again very important for us as taxpayers to make sure that the contracts do reflect better processes, procedures, systems, and tools, and that you are able to integrate that at early stage. So all the stakeholders involved will be able to use the data to take smarter decisions and hopefully to save money. So that's it for today. I'm